morning subscribers, it's Geekonomics here, and just wanting to plug a few gaps really with regard to my playlist on the GCSE A593 stimulus material. It's been quite remiss of me, ladies and gentlemen, that I have missed out a little video for figures 5 and 6, so today I would like to just plug that gap for you, and thank you for the reminders from some of you who have just got in touch to say where is the video GECO for figures 5 and 6. So let's get to it today. This will be quite a short video actually, because there's not too much really to say about these two figures. So what do we have here, ladies and gentlemen? Well, we have, as you can see in figure 5, Zambia's exports to the UK and China. Here we have the UK, fairly stable across the whole time period from 2000 all the way to 2014. And here we have China's flatlining for many years, and then once things really start taking off in China, so too do the value of Zambia's exports to China, shooting up from here all the way up to a peak here of about 2,400 million. Now let's just nota bene there, ladies and gentlemen. Again, these figures are in US dollars and it's millions of US dollars. So this is 2,500 million, which is of course another way we could be saying that would be 2.5 billion. So don't forget that when you are analysing and interpreting the data. Likely questions for this one, ladies and gentlemen, will be things such as the very simple, which could be something as simple as define the term exports. You may get asked to compare the data. That's always a useful one to practice, and it's certainly on the exam scripts which tend to be handed in every summer, never tends to be completed very well. So I would say to you, with regard to answering questions which ask you to compare, make sure that you use terms such as faster than, slower than, higher than, lower than, equal to, at a faster rate, at a slower rate. These types of phrases are all good comparative phrases. Don't just say things like, well, in the year 2000 the value of the UK's exports was such and such and the value of China's exports was such and such. Because there's no comparative statement there, you're not comparing one to the other. All you're doing is simply reading off the chart the value for both countries without making any comparison. So make sure that you use these comparative terms when you are comparing the data. It's always useful as well to be able to work out percentage changes on this type of data. So although I think it's pretty unlikely you would be asked it, but you might be asked, for example, to calculate the percentage change in the value of Zambia's exports to China from 2000 to well, maybe to the peak, for example, in sort of the beginning of 2013. Now you can see this is almost equivalent to 0 here. You could say maybe it's something like, I don't know, 5 million or 10 million, something like that, and then work out the percentage change. Now whenever you do work out the percentage change, it'll probably be, I mean, if you were working from there all the way to the peak, you're probably looking at around about 1700–1800% increase over that time period. So again, make sure that you're comfortable with working percentage changes, and you're competent with using the numbers in the millions format. So that's probably it on that. I can't see, maybe they might ask you something along the lines of, well, tell us why it's really rapidly ratcheted up the value of Zambia's exports to China over this time. And of course you will know from your studies and your knowledge of economics that as China has grown, because you could use the term a derived demand. So the copper here, I say copper, it's primarily what Zambia would be exporting. That is of course derived in its nature, because as the Chinese economy grows, it's been hoovering up all the natural resources globally in order to deliver its extensive expansion program with regard to buildings of infrastructure and so on and so forth. So that's something that you may be asked to comment on as well. When we move then into figure 5, this is a nice little, sort of links in nicely with globalization. You'll know that globalization, of course, when we talk about globalization, we're talking about how the world is becoming more interconnected, and we're also talking about how patterns of trade have changed. And this table here is a great example of the way in which patterns of trade have actually changed. So the importance to Zambia of exports to the UK, so you can see that the UK was very significant in terms of an export destination in the year 2000, even though the value was very, very minimal. Don't forget that as well from your chart here. And then when we fast forward to 2014, then UK's rank position is then 10th. And again, when you look at the value in 2014, it's a pretty small fry really. Compare that, however, with China. China back in 2000, still an emerging economy at the time, ranked 50th in terms of its importance. However, fast forward again 14 years and it's ranked 2nd. So it's interesting the way things have changed and the way the pattern of trade globally has changed. So UK over here in 2000, that value there of around about, let's call it 200 million, and that puts the UK at number 1. This value here around about maybe 100 million puts it at number 10. But look what's happened as the globalization has taken place and patterns of trade have changed. Then obviously the destinations of Zambia's exports have changed, and these emerging market economies have been hoovering up the exports from Zambia, which will particularly be raw materials, and consequently we get this enormous spike in Zambia's exports. Now of course during this time this is very favourable for Zambia, because it will be earning lots of export revenue, it will be earning lots of foreign exchange, which it can use to plug the foreign exchange constraint and use that money to bring in the imports of capital goods. So there are all sorts of benefits to this type of thing, but of course that's all very well when things are going well in the global economy. Don't forget the other side of that. On the other hand, when the global economy starts to slow down, and then the value of exports to China start to fall, then if Zambia does not have any other avenues to raise revenue, then that can be a particular problem, and we'll talk about that in future videos when we're talking about the Dutch disease, for example. So I'm going to leave it at that, ladies and gentlemen. I'll quickly put up here just the questions which I've been talking about there, which you may wish to prepare for with regard to this particular section. So you can have a look at those. If you would like a copy of this, ladies and gentlemen, do get in touch, and I'm sure I can send you a copy via email or send you a Dropbox link or something. But we'll leave it at that, ladies and gentlemen. Bye for now. I hope you've been able to understand me with my croaky voice this morning. Bye.